you ever felt stuck between wanting to save your money and feeling like you're missing out on better opportunities? Maybe you're wondering if that certificate deposit offering a guaranteed return is really your best option. Well, today I'm going to share why putting money in a CD might not be the smartest move for your financial future. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to share some eye-opening truths about CDs, and these are some truths that the bank probably isn't telling you. Well, if you missed yesterday's show, I talked about the 7 best ways retirees can spend their savings. We talked about how to make those golden years truly golden and be a good steward of your resources. So if you missed it, I'm going to encourage you to go check it out, and I'm going to also encourage you to share it with somebody who will benefit from it. Today's listener question comes to us from Alexandra, and she writes this: Ralph, I've been listening to your show for months now, and I really need your advice. My local bank is pushing me to open a CD with my $50,000 savings, promising a guarantee of a 4.5% return. They make it sound so safe and secure, but something in my spirit is telling me to ask for guidance. What should I do? Alexander, that's a great question. And listen, I want to start by saying this. I want to be very clear about this. I am not against CDs. I think they have their place. I just want listeners to make more informed and better decisions. So Alexandra, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to talk about the things that banks don't always tell you about CDs. Now, before we dig into your answer to your question, Alexander, I want to remind you that you can submit your questions. Go to justaskralph.com, because the truth is, this show is all about answering your questions, just like Alexandra's today. So submit your questions, go to justaskralph.com, and your question will be on the show. Now, Alexander, your question reminds me of the parable of the talents. Very common Bible verse. You probably hear it quoted all the time. It's where Jesus teaches us about being wise with our resources. Like I said, it's a very commonly quoted Bible verse. I've used it many times on this show, and it really speaks to stewardship. And it comes right to us from Matthew 25, verses 14 to 30. I'm going to read the whole thing, but I think it's important for today. So, for it will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded them and made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here, I made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid. And I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here, you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. They might be saying, wow, dude, that's a harsh verse to end the year, but it's the truth. It speaks the truth about biblical stewardship. And Alexander, it speaks directly to your question. So let's get into those CD details. Well, let me tell you about my client, Martha. Now, Martha lost her husband back in 2019, and she got this $250,000 life insurance payout. And she was looking for guidance, After meeting with her a couple years later, she said to me, she said, Ralph, my husband always handled the finances. So when she got this inheritance, I didn't know her at the time. She was lost. She was looking for somebody to help her. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like banks because I think banks like to sell you products. They're all about sales. They're not about solutions. Well, Martha went into the bank because that's what she knew. And the bank manager said, I'm very sorry about your husband's loss. And I see you've got this $250,000 just sitting in your savings account. And the bank manager said, listen, Martha, I got an idea for you. Why don't you put that money to work for you? Now, again, this is back in 2019. And the bank manager suggested that Martha buy a 5-year CD. And at the time, it was paying 2.75%. That's the APY. And like I said, Martha didn't understand a lot of this stuff. Her husband always handled it. She was lost. She was looking for solutions. And she thought to myself, well, my savings account's only paying like 0.5%. This is 2.75%. It sounds like a good deal. So Martha agreed and she locked her money in for that 5-year CD. Well, fast forward a couple of years to 2021. And all of a sudden, Martha's daughter has this medical emergency. She needs $50,000. And she approached her mom, and her mom wanted to help her. So she went back to the bank, and the branch manager said, well, that's fine. You can do that. But if you do that, you're going to have what we call an early withdrawal penalty. And you're going to lose 12 months of interest. So Martha left the bank. She got on the internet. She saw that I was a local accountant. And she called me, and she set up a consultation. They came over to see me. And I'll tell you what we did for Martha in a few moments. But let's talk about the 7 key issues with CDs. These are the reasons why I think you need to take a pause and think about it. And like I said, I am not against CDs as part of your investment portfolio. I just think there are some things we need to understand. Number one thing, and Martha learned this the hard way, there's limited liquidity. Your money is locked away and inaccessible. Now, of course, you can get to your money. I don't want to be over dramatic about this, but it's locked away from the standpoint that you can lose some of the interest you earn. So in that ways, it's inaccessible. And think about Martha's case. It created a serious problem during this emergency. She had the money. She wanted to give it to her daughter, but she knew that it was going to be a process and she was going to lose some interest because she was going to lose 12 months of interest. And around that same issue is it could be being too safe. A lot of people say CDs are safe. I've got one client, that's all he invests in, but that can be risky as well. So first thing, limited liquidity. Second thing, let's talk about those early withdrawal penalties. They can be substantial if you need to access your money before that CD matures. In Martha's case, I'm going to give you some real numbers. She faced a $6,875 penalty. They wanted 1 year of interest. And think about it. You're in a position where you're in this emotional state. You're in a crisis. That kind of thing could devastate a family in crisis. Martha, could have lost $6,875. So that's the second thing. There's early withdrawal penalties. Third thing is lower returns. Now, in 2019, 2.75% was actually a pretty good rate. It's not that way today. Rates now, you're looking at the CD rates in 5-6%. And think about it. We're just now 5 years into that. So if she was to reprice that now, that wasn't such a great deal. And that's the problem is a lot of times those things don't keep pace with inflation, especially as you get into the longer terms. Now, if you're doing a 1-year CD, we probably won't see inflation like we've seen the last 4 years. This inflation we're living through is crazy. Like you got 30% inflation a year sometimes. So you got to think about it. You're going to get lower returns. And that's where, having a diversified portfolio could offer you better returns. Maybe you have a mix of those things. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And you can still have that reasonable access to funds. So that's number 3, lower returns. As a tax guy, I'm going to tell you number 4, there are some tax implications. When you have a CD like that, you're going to pay taxes on the interest that you earn in that year. And if you've got substantial CDs, that can put you in the higher tax brackets. And I say all of that because there are, in my opinion, more tax-efficient options available. So that's the tax implications. Number 5, there's opportunity cost. If that money is locked in that 5-year CD or that 6-year CD or 3-year CD, you're missing investment opportunities. Maybe something comes about where you can invest in a family business, but you've got that money locked in that CD. And I really think it limits your ability to build wealth. So that's number 5, opportunity cost. 6 is inflation risk. We talked a bit about a few minutes ago. because that real value of that investment erodes over time. And see, that safety, it's not in the market. It's not, it's not out there dangling, that sort of thing. There's safety. But the problem is it doesn't protect you against inflation. Talk to anybody who bought 5-year CDs back in 2019, and then we saw inflation going through the roof in 2022, 2023. The market adjusted, and they're holding CDs at 2.5%, 2.75%. And now the market's paying 4.5%. So you need to have a strategy that maintains that purchasing power when you're going through those times of inflation. So that's number 6, inflation risk. And number 7, not the least of which of the things we need to talk about, is reinvestment risk. Because here's the problem. The interest rates might be lower at maturity. You might have a situation where you bought that 3-year CD at 5%. Now all of a sudden the market's turned. You got to reinvest that money. Now the rates are 2%. And that truly affects. I've got a lot of clients that rely on interest income, and that's their sole source of income. Now they have Social Security, they have a small pension, but they're relying on that interest income. And if those interest rates are fluctuating, there's no guarantee that you're going to have enough money to pay your bills. There's no guarantee of maintaining returns. Now listen, there's no guarantee of anything in this world, to be honest. But I just feel like that is something we need to consider when we're looking at CDs. So let me go back through those again. Number 1, limited liquidity. Number 2, you've got those early withdrawal penalties. Number 3, generally lower returns. Number 4, you've got those tax implications we talked about. Number 5, you've got that opportunity cost, that missed investment opportunities. Number 6, we don't talk about that inflation risk. And number 7, that reinvestment risk. So now let's get back to Martha. Let me tell you what we did to help Martha. And I came alongside of her like I do with clients and put my arm around her and said, Martha, let me help you with this. So we looked at some strategic solutions. We talked about balance, and I worked with a broker. We balanced her security needs with fund accessibility. We wanted her to have some money that she could go and have if she needed it in these emergency situations. And I also helped her, I helped get involved to help her negotiate a reduced early withdrawal penalty. She actually is working with a credit union, and the credit union had in its bylaws that if people had a medical necessity, they would reduce those penalties. So in Martha's case, we were able to get that penalty significantly reduced because she showed the medical necessity of it. And the credit union said, you know what, we're not going to ding you for that premature distribution penalty or that early withdrawal penalty because we see the medical necessity of it. We also worked to help build a value-aligned investment approach for Martha. We found a trusted financial advisor. She wasn't just going to rely on that guy at the bank anymore, that lady at the bank. Wasn't going to rely on that bank manager. And like I said, I don't like banks for investments. I think they sell products, they don't sell solutions. And working with her financial advisor, they were able to create a diversified investment strategy that didn't just have CDs. It incorporated her values. Martha's a Christian lady. She had certain values she wanted to go, and she wanted to make sure her investments, came alongside her faith. She wanted to maintain those faith-based investment principles. The broker also helped her improve her financial position. He helped her put together that emergency fund, and he actually put that in a high-yield savings account where there's no early withdrawal penalties. He also helped her invest in some faith-based mutual funds, and he still used CDs. He used them strategically, and he allocated that with a broader portfolio. He did some what we call laddering. He kept some of those, and she liked the security of that. Martha understood at a basic core level that those CDs didn't have that market risk. They were guaranteed that the money would be there. So let me tell you about the outcomes of this. And it worked out great. Martha was able to fund her daughter Emily's medical treatment. And to this day, Martha's still a tax client. Her portfolio shows steady growth, and she works with her broker. And let me tell you, Martha has become very skilled in this area. And the thing she says to me, Ralph, she says, the coolest part of this whole thing, these investments now align with my personal values, and I have some financial flexibility, which I think that is fantastic. So Martha, job well done. And I'm going to share some action steps with you in a few moments. But first, are you feeling overwhelmed by your financial challenges? Are you feeling like Martha? You just lost your spouse, and maybe you've gotten an inheritance. You're like, Ralph, what do I do with this? Or maybe you're buying a home. Maybe you're running a small business. Maybe you're like a lot of Americans. You're living paycheck to paycheck, and you just feel overwhelmed. Well, let me just tell you, you don't have to walk this journey alone. Like many people, you might be watching your dreams slip away. Maybe you're struggling with mounting debt. You're feeling stuck. You're feeling frustrated. You don't know where to turn. Maybe you're a business person. You're trying to balance business and personal finances. And you just feel lost. You feel overwhelmed. But let me tell you right now, there is hope. If you don't hear anything else I'm saying right now, there is hope. Together, we can create a path to your financial freedom while continuing to honor your Christian values. And you might say, Ralph, how do you get there? Well, here's how I'm going to get there. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you by starting to assess your current situation. I'm going to talk about where you are. No judgment, just facts. Here's where you are. And then we'll identify those God-given dreams, those big, hairy, audacious goals. And they're different for everybody. Maybe for you, it's saving for retirement. Maybe it's saving that you don't run out of money in retirement. Maybe it's funding a college education for your kids. Maybe it's buying that dream home. But we're going to identify those things. And then we're going to try to align your goals with your faith. Make sure that, as we did with Martha, that she can say, hey, Ralph, I'm happy that my investment choices align with my faith. And we'll work to build a personalized financial roadmap. This is for you. And I'm going to help you establish accountability and help you track your success. And listen, there are no cookie-cutter solutions. There's no some YouTube video you watch or some TikTok video that's going to give you all the answers. But what you will get from me is a practical, faith-based approach tailored to your unique situation. So let me ask you, do you want to break free from debt? Do you want to find financial stability? Do you want to achieve long-term success and grow spiritually while building wealth? Don't let another day pass feeling stuck or overwhelmed. I'm going to encourage you right now. Book your consultation now. You go to AskRalph.com. You'll see a icon at the top that says book a call with Ralph. Just click that. And let's create your path to financial freedom and spiritual growth together. Again, go to AskRalph.com and click on that book a call with Ralph. Now let's get to those action steps I promised. So number one, before opening a CD, no matter what you got going on, calculate your potential need for the funds during that CD term. So like Martha, she locked that money up for 5 years because she saw that 2.75% and said, well, that's like 10 times what I'm getting now. But you've got to think about when you're going to need your money. I've talked about this in other shows. This may be a time to do some laddering. And then number two, you want to compare those CD rates with other low-risk investment options. They aren't the only game in town, and that's where you want to work with your broker. If you don't have one, find one. Don't go to the bank. And I'm not bad-mouthing banks, but banks sell products. They don't sell solutions. So number three, consider building a ladder of investments. Maybe the CDs are part of that. But I don't want to see you putting all your money in that one CD that you don't have access to. And like I said, number four, consult with a financial advisor about alternatives that align with your goals. It's the thing that Martha found out. So there's a lot there, but take a look at what your needs are going to be for 6 months, for 12 months, for 18 months, for 24 months. And build that ladder of investments that gives you that right feeling, that low-risk investment. If you're a low-risk investor, that gives you good returns, but also gives you that feeling like your goals are being met. Tomorrow, I'm going to be discussing how to start the new year off on the best financial path. We'll create a roadmap for your 2025 financial success. So remember this as I close today. My passion is to help you achieve financial success. I want to see you live out your dreams and grow in your faith. As we enter into 2025, I wish all of you a very happy new year. And I hope you join me in the journey in 2025, because I know together we can master your finances from that Christian perspective. So be safe out there, stay financially savvy, and may God bless you today and all throughout 2025.
Thank you for joining us on the Ask Ralph podcast. And with a simple click to subscribe, we'll invite you back to our next episode. And remember, financial issues don't have to be complicated. Just ask Ralph. The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media, Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.